Alright guys, today we're going to talk about tools and why they're important and why you need to go through them, because I just found out the hard way. So let me tell you a little story. The other weekend we were out in the hills and the bolt backed out on the front control arm and stuff. Normally not a big deal, right? Grab some tools, tighten it down, keep rocking and rolling. Unfortunately, because I changed out the hardware for new control arms, it went from a 18 millimeter head to a 16 millimeter head on the bolt. And well, I knew before that, well, all the control arms are 18 millimeter bolts, so I had two 18 millimeter wrenches in the toolkit. I don't bring anything extra because it all adds weight, and in racing, well, weight's expensive. So didn't have a 16 millimeter wrench with me. So you know, I basically ended up having to call a buddy, have him drive out there, which took him like several hours to get out there. It turned into this giant fiasco. Moral of the story, make sure that you have the right tools for your machine as it currently is, right? We all modify these things, we all modify them like crazy, we all dump a bunch of money and parts into them. How your machine is when you get it day one is going to be radically different from probably how it will be in 10 days, right? Or more. As you're modifying it, you need to keep track of all the different tools that it's going to take to fix it, because it will change. That's the problem that I ran into. So do yourselves a favor, like me, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but go through everything in all your tool kits. I have 4 that I bring with us. And what I'm going to do today and stuff is I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you what all I bring with us, why I bring it with us, and I'm going to tell you a cheater method to how you can make sure you have all the right tools for your machine at any given time. It's kind of, I don't know, I would love to call it an idiot-proof way, but, well, I managed to screw it up, so, yeah. But learn from me. Let's go through what's on this table first, and then I got a little bit more on that far table, and then I'll kind of walk you through where we stash it all and why we stash it there, because where you put your tools can actually make a really, really big impact on how your machine handles. Again, I learned that lesson the hard way. So, first and foremost, this whole like side of this bench, basically like this half of the bench, all goes into a tool roll. So what I'd have in there is I have 2 sets of wrenches, right? One's a ratcheting set and one's just like a fixed set. I use reusable zip ties so that way I can, you know, keep them together nicely, but I don't have to cut a zip tie every time I need them. Also in here, right, I don't have like a 9 millimeter wrench. I don't have an 11 millimeter wrench. Why? Because there is nothing on that machine that requires a 9 mil or an 11, right? Same thing like with a 20. There is nothing on there that's a 20 mil. So make sure that your wrenches, all your tools for that matter, like I said, match. Most everything on the Can-Am is metric. That being said, some of the aftermarket parts that I've bought, like a lot of stuff from Shock Therapy, is standard actually. So I have different wrenches for dealing with the steering rack and stuff like that, and for adjusting the tie rods and the rear radius rods. These are all standard actually. And then, in case you get in a pinch, always have your adjustable wrenches as well. So now, moving on, have, you know, sockets. The way that I kind of store all of our extensions and everything is I actually link them all together. It makes it a lot easier to go through it this way versus, you know, having to dig through and just find like just a little adapter, right? It's a lot easier to have them all stuck together. So as long as you have all your extensions and everything else stuck together, it makes them a lot easier to grab. That's why I link all of ours together. The other thing is, obviously, make sure you have, you know, all the adapters so you can go up and down, you know, just in case, mainly because just in case you lose something out there or you break a tool. I've been there, stripped the gears out of a ratchet, and I did not have an adapter to what? I stripped the gears out of a 3/8 ratchet. I didn't have the adapter to use a 1/2 inch. So I was kind of up shit creek. Again, learn from my mistakes. So the other thing is I'm going to show you how to do this later, but keep track of everything you need, because again, these are specialty sockets that I need for my steering rack. There's only one way that I can get that thing on and off, and one way that I can adjust it if needed, which I don't have to adjust it out there, but in case things get loose, I need to at least be able to tighten them up. I won't care how it's adjusted, it just needs to get me off the trail or off the track. So that's why you really need to make sure you go through, and everything in your toolkit, everything on your buggy, everything in your race car should have a purpose, and you should know exactly what that purpose is. So yeah, the best way to know that is by playing with it a lot, tinkering with it a lot, and breaking it a lot, fixing it a lot, but it's good to know. Obviously lug socket, 30 mil is for our axle nut, hammer and a file, you know, and then obviously Torx and Allens, because, well, Can-Am has several of those. So now, no toolkit would be complete without screwdrivers, right? You know, have a couple different sizes of each, a couple different lengths of each, and then obviously you need one really good stout flathead because, well, this is a pry bar, right? Everybody can see it's a pry bar. Now it's a hammer, so, you know, it works. The other thing actually that a buddy of mine recommended was a magnet. We ended up losing a, what was it? It was a screw for a carburetor down in the engine bay when we were out snow wheeling, and a magnet came in super handy. On the Can-Am, I lost a snap ring again down into the engine area. Actually, it ended up falling down onto the skid plate. Magnet, super handy. So, just, you know, word of the wise, I guess. Now, all the way down here, at the very end of the table, we have our pliers. So, I ended up having several repeated pieces, like, you know, repeated tools in the kit. But I just narrowed it down, reduced it down to just these. I'm thinking I'm probably actually going to do away with the electrical pliers, only because, well, a set of dikes will get you just as far, because I don't carry any crimp connectors with me. I do have two vice grips because they can be, you can use these to pinch off a hose. Like, you basically would put two wrenches on each side of the hose, take the vice grips, clamp it down, right, so it doesn't damage the hose, but it will still pinch it off. That way, if you need to, you can pinch something off so you like lose as little coolant as possible or something like that, right? So that brings me to my next point. Really keep in mind what you're actually going to be fixing out there, right? You're not going to be pulling an engine. Like, if you need to pull an engine, well, just call help or just start making a fire, because you're going to be out there for a long time. Yeah, like, really keep in mind like what you're going to be using the tools for, and the kinds of things that you are willing to fix on the trail versus the kind of things that you're going to be like, you know, nope, I'm not going to fix it, we're going to drag it out of here, right? So really kind of keep that in mind. That'll help, you know, with your toolkit and stuff like that. If I was only had a toolkit that was just for racing, this is what we keep in the buggy all the time. Anytime this thing leaves the shop, this is what's in it. Racing, exploring, adventuring, you know, overlanding, whatever. This is what's in it. But if I was going to be doing just racing, it's like, okay, if I rip the corner of it off, like, all right, I'm probably not going to be fixing it out there, you know, like, I'm not even going to try, right? Whereas if I'm, you know, if we are 100 miles out in the mountains and I rip the corner of it off, I need to have enough tools to be able to figure something out to get me back home. Because, well, my fiance terrifies the hell out of me, and if I rip something off when we're way out there, I'm pretty sure she'd kill me. She'd be super pissed. So, yeah, make sure that you know exactly what's in your tool roll. Now, let's go check out the other side of the table. All right, so over here on this side of the table, again, I have a few tools that are repeated, but that's on purpose. Wait, actually, no, that is not on purpose. You didn't see that. Okay, so this stuff right here is all basically what is stored in this PRP bag under my seat. So always have an impact gun with me and spare battery. Always make sure that they're charged, like fully charged. And then normally I, you know, like for everything here in the shop, I just use like knockoff batteries. But where it matters, I actually do use true DeWalt batteries. You know, if I was bougie and I had a bunch of money, I would have Milwaukee, but you know, I don't. So the other thing I carry is a spare, like a little battery pack thing. Basically this also, like, it can charge your cell phone and stuff, or in our case, like, we have a sat phone it can charge, and it can also jumpstart a machine. And believe it or not, I've actually had to use this out in the hills. Super funny story. Buddy of mine has a YXZ. He spent a bunch of money on all kinds of rigid lights for it, right, for this bachelor party that we were going to, and did not upgrade the stator on it and did not put an alternator on it. He ended up basically killing the machine in the middle of the night. Well, actually it was like 1 in the morning, and because he just left the lights on. Like when we were out driving around, it would basically drain the battery as it was going, and I actually had to use that and jump start him. The other thing is, yep, I do have an air hose on here, you know, a blowgun and tire inflator, because I do have onboard air on this thing. If you want, comment down below and let me know, and I will show you how I did that, but it works out super slick and it does not weigh anything. So the other thing I got in here is another 30 mil socket, you know, 1/2 inch breaker bar, and then these are all tools for basically in case I blow a belt. I wanted to have a couple different needle nose and a couple different kinds of pliers, you know, side cutters here, to be able to try to fish the belt out. Make life a little bit easier and stuff, and also if you blow a belt, it's going to be hot. Have gloves. So lastly, a couple few hose clamps, and in this roll here is just some spare nuts, like some nylock nuts, just in case. And then this is for my AGM jack. This thing is awesome. Absolutely love this jack, and that is why I have a spare DeWalt battery, because this jack is actually powered by a DeWalt battery, and it is fantastic. So that is everything that is under my seat. I'm not going to bore you guys with what is under Allie's seat, because all that's under there is just a couple tow straps, you know, a winch extension, and a kinetic rope. Like, you've seen it all. Now, as far as what goes in this little bag is kind of like a quick access bag, right? Have a, you know, clutch tool in there for replacing a belt. I do mess with the suspension a whole lot when I'm out there on the trails. So I do have stuff that I can mess with that. And then, you know, license, well, not license, but like registration, stuff like that. Always, and insurance cards, just in case, because it is street legal. Fuses, pocket knife, a spare relay, and then inside the interior of this thing, we have all kinds of Allen keys, like, or Allen bolts basically, for everything, like from, you know, like what the iPad mount holder thing is held on by, it has Allen bolts on the back side, you know, same thing like with the switches, the mirrors, same thing, you know, the lights, same thing. So if I wanted to adjust anything, I make sure that I have that stuff super quick and easily accessible. So now that is basically everything that I carry on us, with us, to fix stuff. I do carry a few spares, but that kind of just more depends on like what we're doing. Like if we are at a race, usually I go through this thing super good, so the only thing that's really gonna fail is whatever breaks when I hit something very strong and immovable. Otherwise, you know, when we're out on the trails and stuff, like out in the hills, I'll take like spare coil pack, spark plug, you know, ball joint, that kind of a thing, just in case. Kind of unlikely, but you never know, and it's easy just to throw them in. And when we're out on the trails, I really don't care too much about the added weight of it. Kind of is what it is. And as you'll see, when we're on the trails, like I even carry a small shovel. This little Rhino shovel has been fantastic and has gotten us out of way too many pinches, that's for sure. The other thing I carry is a lot of spare hardware. This is one of those things that this is just kind of amassed over time, and I never have gone through it. Like there's a bunch of fuses in here even that are probably no good. But yeah, so I got to go through that. Anyway, In the wintertime, right, this is for being able to air down nice and quick. This thing is incredibly handy. It makes airing down super fast, and you don't have to worry about losing the valve stem. So it's really nice. The other thing I always carry is a tire plug kit. Everybody knows zip ties, are incredibly handy. I carry spare hardware for shocks and for control arms and trailing arms. Basically anything big that could keep me from getting off the trail. I kind of, I'd rather not drag this thing off the trail. So that is why I also have a ratchet strap. Don't know if you've ever seen or not, but basically if you rip off any corner, a lot of times what people will do is ratchet strap a log to the underside of it to use it as a skid, and then you either drive it out kind of on its own three-legged power, or what's most common is you end up having somebody help you, they pull you out while it's just dragging, let's just say it was this rear corner that got ripped off. You'd lay a log down here underneath the trailing arm, right, and it would go back a ways, and then you just ratchet strap the holy crap out of that log to the trailing arm, so it'd help hold this corner up out of the dirt. Again, that's if you sheared off, all 4 wheel or lug studs. So now that you guys know everything that we keep in this thing, right, I'm gonna a little bit lesson learned as to why I put it where I do now. So first off, where did I put it? Before I would keep our tool roll right up here next to the spare tire, and I would keep our actually that bag that we just went through with little shovel in it and stuff like that, I would actually keep that right over here on this side. Basically everything else would go underneath my seat. There used to be more room under there, but because of all the gusseting bars, there's not as much anymore. So anyway, what I found out is that causes a whole heck of a lot of body roll. On something with super soft suspension, you have all kinds of weight up high, gets a lot of body roll. So one of the reasons why we did this new exhaust is because it opened up this area right here. And actually one of the things that I'm doing this week is I'm actually going to make a nice flat plate that will sit right on here that will allow me to put the tool roll. Actually, I'm not going to put the tool roll there. I'm going to put the other, all this stuff that's under my seat, that's a little bit lighter, I was going to put there. And then the heavy tool roll is actually going to get unrolled and stuffed under my seat. That gets the center of gravity down a lot lower, so it will help reduce that body roll. Coming up here in June, we have a race that's on a really fast flowing course, so I want to make sure that we get that weight as low as possible. It's another reason why I take off the roof rack and the lights, partly so we don't crush it, but also so that there's less weight up high, and hopefully help the body roll a little bit. Now finally, the all-important question of how do you remember everything that you need to bring with you? Well, I made an entire spreadsheet, and actually this is a lot faster, quicker, and easier than you would really think it would be. It does not take long at all to pretty much go around, just type everything up and then just go around on your machine, just one night, drink a few beers, right, just have a handful of wrenches and go around and just check everything on your machine. You don't need to write down the torque specs like I did. That's a little OCD, I know, but as far as just knowing all of your wrench sizes and everything else, this is the best bulletproof way I have found. I even have on here, the Willwood brake stuff, right? Because that all changed. Before, when I had stock brakes, the caliper mounting bolts were a 13 mil. Now they're they were a 15 mil. Now they're a 17. Right? So stuff like that it just kind of changes over time. So really make sure that you go through, and as you modify your machine, you also modify the tools that you bring with you. I cannot tell you how critical that is. So make sure that as you're modifying your machine, you also modify the toolkit and the spares and everything else that comes with you so that it matches, right? Because there's nothing worse than being like me, thinking, oh hey, it's no big deal at all. You bust open the tools and you realize, problem. So, hope this helps.